I really like what Mr. Makhanda just said. You don't have to be loud to be heard. You don't have to be white to be heard. You don't have to speak perfect English to be heard. But how to get our AAPI vote be counted? What's the barriers to AAPI unity? And how to make our voice be heard, make every AAPI vote counted. Next, I would like to invite the moderator, my friend Keith Koo. Keith is a Silicon Valley entrepreneur, investor, and Chinese American radio host. And Keith is going to be the moderator for next panel discussion with speaker Wong, Anthony Ng, and Sato Wong. And thanks to all the speakers to join us. Keith, microphone is yours. Yeah, Keith, you hear me? Please unmute yourself.
Thanks, Diana. I want to thank you and the team, Sandy and Hong, again, for putting this really important discussion together. Of course, the previous panel, I do want to recognize Sandy and the powerful speech she just gave. So thanks for the opportunity. For the next 30 minutes, we're going to have a panel discussion on making every AAPI vote count. And then we'll have about a 30-minute Q&A, and then Diana and team will wrap up. So as Diana mentioned, I'm Keith Koo. Some of the things that have not been mentioned yet is I have a radio show called Silicon Valley Insider. I started it 4 years ago, literally because there were no Asian radio hosts on the business network here in Silicon Valley. And when I did the show, I said I would do a show and I would happen to be Asian, but it wouldn't be an Asian show. But 2/3 of my guests are women and minorities. It's important to mention this because of innovation that happens. The general assumption in Silicon Valley is what's called a blue flame, which are two white males in their late 20s who have no family life, just work, or one white male or one Asian male as the partners. And so before that, I was climbing the corporate ladder. I was an executive in several companies, and I've been on the board of the Asian Business League for over a decade, and I've been tracking a lot of this data around Asians in the workforce and Asians in leadership. Before I begin, one of the interesting comments also is that the population in the United States is 6.5% Asian, but it's 2/3 are foreign born, only 1/3 are American born. So unless you're naturalized, voting becomes even more problematic. And also for US Census purposes, as Diana's mentioned, there are actually over 48 countries on the continent of Asia, and then you include the territories, well, disputed, and again, I'm not making a political statement here, but Taiwan, Macau, and Hong Kong, there's 51 different regions in the continent of Asia. Becomes a very, very polarizing place. And we do want to do, as Sandy said, bring unity. For US Census purposes, only South Asians, East Asians, and Southeast Asians are considered Asian. Western and Central Asians are actually Caucasian or white for US Census purposes. So this is where it becomes a very, very complicated question. And that's how I want to start off opening up with the panel. I'd like each of the panelists to do a brief introduction, starting with Sato. And please turn on your cameras and your microphones if you're on the panel.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, yes. I'm having a little issues, but I'll just start. I'm Sato. I live here in the SF Bay area. My background is in branding and strategy, working in tech to help companies get their messaging and their branding out there. Now, why do I share this? I'm sharing this because it is the reason why I started Asians Are Visible. I started Asians Are Visible at the height of the attacks against the community sometime in February. And because of my background, knowing how important words are and how powerful words could be, I was so alarmed when I saw like so many negative words like hate, you know, right next to the Asian. And for me, as someone who creates messaging and a story using words, it took me back to history, learning about history, how words, negative words were used to turn people against each other. And I really did not want that to happen to our community, to have the word hate or any negative words attached to the word Asians, right? Because it can become a symbol for the Asian community. And so that's how Asian Are Visible came to be, and also to address the visibility of Asians. And I believe Mike Honda shared earlier about Vincent Chan, right? how people took the word Japanese and they associated with a face, right, which looked Asian, and they used that as an excuse to kill a man. And this also happened during the Japanese encampment. So I think at this point where we are, although I think it's good that we reacted at the beginning because something powerful needed to happen, I think right now we need to start thinking of the narrative that we're going to create for our community that is more positive, that will move us forward into the future. So yeah, with Asians are visible.
Thanks, Sato. Thank you for the introduction, and I totally agree that part of the way of building allyship is to use more positive language so that people don't anchor on negative language like hate. I want to actually move over to Anthony, Executive Director of Civic Leadership USA. Anthony, please give an intro to yourself. Anthony, you're on mute.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Keith. I'm Anthony Ain, Executive Director of Civic Leadership USA, and my last life experience, I've been in philanthropy for the last 20-some years, from philanthropy to direct service, from arts and culture to community development. But interesting, my first major half of my experience, I was learning, working in African American and Hispanic, and even in Jewish community. The last 10 years is my really work in progress and training in Asian community. I must echo to what you said, because 20-some years ago, we rolled out a report with the United Way called Invisible but in Need. I was on the blueprint committee with Chau when she was working for the United Way International. That actually has a couple of things didn't change. First, funding to AAPIs in those years was 0.2% from the foundation. And interestingly, after almost 30 years now, our population increased to more than 7% in American population. If you look at the funding from foundation, it is still around 0.2%. Shame on us. I'm excited and also grateful. The recent rise of the Asian American Foundation, they said, if we don't do it ourselves, no one will do it for us. So they pulled together, contribute the money for the Asian American and by the Asian American. And I hope that this will be only the beginning of everybody's talking about we need to work together. So I'm humble and excited to be a part of this whole movement, hoping that together we can turn the needle.
Thank you, Anthony. Thanks for your intro. And I wanted to then ask Joel Wong, President of Asian American United, for his introduction. Welcome, Joel.
Hi, my name is Joel Wong. I've been with the Asian movement for quite a few years. I'd like to share 2 slides with you. And okay, I want to talk about how to make AAPI votes more effective. Some time ago, there was a movement called 80-20 PAC. We changed our name to National Asian American PAC. The idea is to have a block vote. If we can get 80% of Asian American to vote the same way, then it will be very powerful, because we're approaching 22 to 24 million people in this country. Mind you, in 1965, when they opened up the immigration to everybody, before there were less than 1 million Asian American. Now we have 22 to 24 million Asian American. We share the same goals, which is immigration, education, and healthcare. But however, we disagree with each other on many fronts. So one of the things that we need to do is to be able to learn to agree to disagree. Look at the main goals of Asian American and forget about the little things, okay? And other things that we need to do is to learn from the Jewish Americans, the African Americans, and other minorities. And we learn from other cultures. So what are the barriers to Asian American unity? Well, we basically haphazardly put together about 50 years ago, and we call ourselves Asian Americans. But the actual reality is that we are from over 20 different countries and dozens of different cultural backgrounds. We have language and we have cultural barriers. And most political campaigns fail to engage Asian American properly. In other words, they don't have the right message for Asian American. That's the problem. And some states are making it very difficult for people to vote, especially in some of the southern states. But however, we find out that once we register, the disparity between Asian American and whites declined substantially. So basically, we need to register more Asian to vote and vote on the common grounds and be able to agree to disagree. So this is what I have for now. I'd be happy to go on with other topics.
Thanks, Joel. Thanks for the background. As someone who studied extensively Asian American history, it is good to bring back that the term Asian American as a construct was about 50 years ago. At the time, 20 countries represented. I'm going to open this up to Joel, Sato, and Anthony. What is your first thought on how to build unity, given that there's such disparate backgrounds and so many communities involved?
Well, we can take a lot of lessons from the data that AAPI data has collected. They survey all the Asian ethnicities and found out that we have three very common goals. One is we are most Asian American very heavily invested in education. So that's one thing that we can do. We can work together with, and another is immigration. We have to make sure that America gets the best people from all over the world. That includes Chinese American. Chinese people, right now, there is a China initiative saying that, if you come over from China, you are liable to be a spy. But we educate them, we give them a PhD degree, and then we send them back to China. That doesn't make any sense. And thirdly, is basically healthcare. A lot of Asian, contrary to what people believe, actually, we have a lot of educated people that are doing really well, but a lot of Asian Americans are basically scraping the bottom, especially the recent immigrants from Southeast Asia. And we have to make sure that we coalesce together and make healthcare available to everybody. So those are three goals that we can work together.
All right, thanks, Joel. I'll go over to Sato.
Something I've been thinking about a lot, and it's been also sharing this with some of the Asian community, including Keith, is that one. Can you hear me, or does that sound? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
The thing that I think about a lot is that the percentage that we need to get in order to move this movement for the Asian community forward is that study shows, science shows that you need at least 3.5% of the entire population behind you in order for any movement to happen, for anything to materialize from that movement. We don't even have 1%. And why do I share that? I share that because it's super important for us, because in order to have that 3.5%, we have to look outside of our community, and not just look outside of our community for help when we need help, like right now, right? But to start thinking about it and start contributing beyond our own community to other communities, right? To say, hey, what can I do for you, including the community that is the majority. And I think building those kinds of friendships, having dialogue, like a human empathetic kind of a dialogue to get to know someone, right? You're able to connect with them more empathetically. And when you do that with each other, then when something happens, when you need help, people are more likely to help you. And I think that's what we need to do right now, is like reach out outside of the Asian community or even some of the Asian community to help each other. Because I mean, I'll give you an example, like, you know, I'm trying to do this thing to help amplify the visibility of Asians across all the 4 industries, including business, philanthropy, you know, arts and entertainment. I'm missing something. All those areas is that we need to get outside of our community to do that, not just when we need help. And we need to start doing it now, not tomorrow and over strategizing it. We just need to get out and do it. And until we can do that, it's not going to happen. And we start that by helping each other. The Koreans helping the Chinese helping the Cambodians. And, you know, if you have funds in your nonprofit, help the Chinese community nonprofit or the Korean nonprofit, because what I'm coming across is that, well, you know, we're saving it for our people because they need help. But when you're in that mentality of scarcity, of just helping your own community, you can't create this unit of one. And if we can't create that unit of one within our own community, how in the heck are we going to galvanize the rest of the United States to get that 3.5%? So unless we're able to do those things, we're not going to be able to move forward in terms of getting our community out there more visibly.
That is a very important point, because I know that leaders in San Francisco, such as Dennis Hu, and leader in Oakland, Kyle Chan, they are reaching out to the African American, the Hispanic American, because if we support them, chances are we build friendship with them and they will support us. And we have a lot of issues in common, so that I applaud the people, you know, in San Francisco and in Oakland reaching out to the other minority, especially to the Jewish minorities. We have to work together and we have to learn from each other. So we have to go outside of our Asian circle.
You know,
Thanks,
I'd love to add to what Joel shared. I really do. I totally agree with you. You know, and also one thing I'm learning as I go, because, you know, I'm in tech, this is not familiar to me. I'm learning a lot recently. And one of the things that, you know, has been very surprising for me is looking at the stats and the numbers. And to go back to what I shared before, is that in order for us to move forward, we really need to unpack the data that's out there in regards to what constitutes the Asian community in all the different areas, right? Because Joel, as you shared, there's over 20 different kinds of Asian communities here that stack together in one box, right? So I'm looking at some numbers here of the income inequality in the Asian community. And for example, they just average it out. And when they average it out, it's to around $100,000 overall for the Asian community, right? I'm sorry, I've got that wrong. 94,000, about 94,000 for all Asian community. But if you unstack the data, you can see what communities need help and which communities can help. For example, the Burmese American communities, their average income is like 45,000 a year. And then the Indian community, the Indian American communities, it's at 126,000 a year. So if you're looking at data like that and you're seeing that certain communities do well, do better, you know, help the communities that are not doing well within our overall Asian community. And I think it starts there. It's super important for us to unpack the data and not just put everyone in one box to solve the, you know, long-term problem.
Thanks, Sato. Before I jump in, I wanted Anthony to have a chance to speak.
Thank you, Keith. My point is, you pointed out very early. We keep using the AAPIs or even many new terms, but most of us don't even know what it consists, and we don't understand each other. So when we don't understand each other, most of the time we second guess, which doesn't go too well for the unity. So I think the first is like, we need to understand what that entire API are comprised of, and from the culture, from the contribution, and from the struggle that everyone, don't let the Hollywood to tell our story. And also Sato just mentioned, don't let certain statistic to describe our need. Rather, it's like, let us understand, because you're right, representation matters. But then, do we have everyone at the table? Because I've been using this for so long. If you're not at the table, you will be on the menu. But we all understand, if you don't participate, if you don't vote, you're not even on the menu. We are invisible. So when we have this, I will say, yes, we have 48 some countries, 100 some different languages. For unity, let's just focus on the common ground rather than the difference, because there will be too much and sidetrack to us. If we find a common ground and work on it, lay down whatever our perception or pre-assumption, so that we are not reactive, we as the passive that we've been. And I would like to have responsive, that kind of initiative, rather than reactive. So in a way, some of the things that CLUSA have been doing the last couple of years and now is still hopping on is try to build a system among AAPI so that we can work together, tell our story. I remember my first lesson in the African-American community, my boss, Dr. Stewart, say, Anthony, what good does it do if we only educate our own folks? She's talking about the African-American communities. She said, we have to also tell the story so others can understand. And I think I can apply to what a few of you already mentioned. We cannot just work within the AAPI community. We have to learn and understand so that our younger generation, with the hope that they will know and also capable to work with all others in America, so that we can address to each other at the end is fellow American, rather than put any of the ethnic in front of it. But it is a marathon, and we need to start somewhere. And I'm so glad that we all agree on that common ground.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I think we have to be very careful on our terminology. And I think it's been brought up a couple times. And using terminology, I think we have to have a precision on its definition. Asian American is a terminology that was developed, like it was said,
1967.
Right, and we did that for political leverage. Okay, you still need that political leverage across our diaspora in this country, or else you don't have leverage. Having said that, we should also be aware of what Sato is talking about, to disaggregate our population for the purposes of programming and for the census. Before I left, we changed the designation of people from African Americans and Latinos, and then it was Asians was one. So we broke out others to Asian Americans, and we still have to disaggregate the numbers and the population of Asian Americans in the census, because we use the census for information to develop federal programs that will address the needs of our community. So when we say Asian Americans, we have to be very particular and very precise in its application, understanding that it doesn't work when we talk about programs and social services. That's when you have to disaggregate it. So, we have to be aware of that. So using terminology, but we got to stick together and be one. For what purpose? And if you want one voice on issues, then I think that we have to, use our terminologies in ways that can benefit the diaspora, but also benefit us as a political entity. So, I just want people to understand that precision in the application of our terminology, that when we use it, we better be real clear at how we use it, because white folks, they don't care. An Asian's an Asian. A gook's a gook. And we have to be very clear to them and make sure that they are sensitive to the terminology so that they don't go around, because they stop using the N-word and they stop using other terminology for Mexicans. This in turn, we should be doing this to the psyche of the mainstream America. In our effort to become accepted, we need to also have them accept that, Asians are a varied group, but in political terms, we need the collective votes of everybody so that we can get the attention that we need to have in the body politic. So I just want us to be very clear on the use and the precision of our terminologies.
Thanks, Mike. And I know we just have a couple minutes left. So what I'll say, kind of summarizing what Sato and Joel and Anthony and Mike have just said, some of us host a weekly room on Clubhouse. It goes 6 hours way into early morning or mid-morning, 3 a.m. sometimes. And we always reset the room. We always actually qualify what we mean by Asians, because Asians from 48 countries and 3 additional territories. And a lot of times, I'm going to give an example. Middle Easterns and Persians are white on a US census, and they're confused because the ones from the older generation are embracing that label, but the younger generation does not feel that they're getting the benefits of being labeled white for census purposes. So this dovetails to what Mike just said. We need to be very precise on what we're saying.
Can I chime in real quick?
Sure, Sato.
Before you close down?
Yep.
I just want to add on to what Keith just said about precision of word and what Mike said about that as well. And that's the reason why I started Asians Are Visible, is that the words that we say, the words that we use, they have so much power. Now, I'm sharing this because we are using right now for this movement, and not to offend anyone. I think it served our purpose as a reaction at the beginning. But I really want to ask everyone to really think about the next time you use the word next to your name or the Asian community, of how important it is to use positive words next to your name and the name of your people, the Asian community, because they've done studies on this. Like, I don't know if anybody's familiar with Emoto, Dr. Emoto. He performed this thing where he talked to water, like, water has energy and it crystals. And you say hate to it every single day for 30 days. And in another glass of water, you said love and peace. Do you know what happened to the one that you said hate to? It turned black and the crystals were misshapen and they were not lace-like. The bottle of water that you said love and peace to, it formed beautiful hexagonal crystals. Now your body is made up of mostly water, and this is science. This is like quantum mechanics. It is real, you guys. So I really want you to consider the next time you associate anything with the Asian community, a word that you use for this movement, to reconsider using more positive words for it, because really words, they create a world. So thank you, Keith, for letting me share that.
Sure, Sato, thank you. And we're going to open it up now for Q&A till about 6:08. For about the next 26, 27 minutes, we'll have Q&A. So go ahead and raise your hand or type it in the chat box, and we'd be happy to take your questions. Go ahead, Bing.
Yeah, I was actually trying to echo what Sato and Michael earlier said. How do we formulating our narrative? How do we strengthen our narrative? How we change the narrative to look into Asian as a race? And in California itself, according to Census 2020, white is a minority. Have we ever thought that's why white has been minority for a while? Hispanics has been growing into majority. We still have a strong white supremacists in this country. Look at just Santa Clara County, where we are, the judges, the quantity of judges into percentage, how many Asian first generation immigrant judges are around in our Silicon Valley, and how many are there in California. And also the racial percentage, I'm not so sure if you're aware, the mixed race is the very big increase percentage in this area, especially in the Bay Area. They're 5% in California, more than Jewish population. A lot of them, the mixed race, actually Asian mixed with white. So thinking of unity, how we unite all the different races, including the mixed race generation. People like Tyler, mixed race, half white, half Asian. And so many of them are in that new generation can look into the expansion of racial identity versus the positive narrative racial identity. So that's basically a more comment than question.
Thanks, Bing. One thing I've been talking about, those of you who are close to me and are in the meeting today, one thing that I believe that is going to transcend race, gender, ethnicity, and is going to affect Asians disproportionately is automation. So the next 5 to 10 years, automation will replace 73 million American jobs. That is a fact. That is, McKinsey and Bain have all reported on that. So if you think about where a lot of assumptions that the Asian community, let's say this, just say the Silicon Valley, San Francisco, over 50% of all professionals are Asian. During COVID, Asians were predominantly or were the majority of the layoffs. So if you think about already the assumption that Asians occupy a huge amount of the labor force, whether they make leadership positions or not, when automation occurs and 80% of all US jobs are automated with only a replacement of 55 to the 73 million, then we should be thinking ahead that Asians will be disproportionately affected by automation as well. I think that is actually my own personal, those who know me, that is my personal passion right now. And I think that's something that we can all rally around. I'm moving into the solutions, but this is just an open Q&A. So that's my thoughts on the subject. Other thoughts?
Let me just comment that most Asians pretty much limited themselves to their own ethnicity. I just want to go around and ask how many of you have, buddies that are of another ethnicity. Very few of us. We're basically stovepipe into our own circle of friends, which is not very broad. So we have to make a concerted effort to reach out to the other people that we don't know about, because we are grouped together as a group, whether we like it or not. It's important to distinguish ourselves, because right now, the foreign politics affect the Americans like us, because there is the Indians and the Chinese, they don't get along in other countries. And some of this influence is, flooded to our own communities. And we have to be very careful about separating the issues of American versus foreign issues. Right now, the US and China is not getting along. And And whereas Indian American and Chinese American are grouped together as Asian American. So some of this has reflected on our own community, whether we like it or not. So we have to be very careful about that.
Well, can I
Go ahead, Mike.
jump for a second? When you mention the U.S. and China relationship, I think that's where we let our country get away with murder. You know, we should put our government and our State Department's feet to the fire, because most of them don't speak the language that they're supposed to be criticizing and working with. They don't understand the history of those countries, let alone its development and the kinds of political and social barriers that they are dealing with internally, as well as China doesn't understand us as well as they should also. Well, those of us who are here, we understand racism, we understand discrimination within our country. We should also understand that our government will use terminologies that will put China at a disadvantage in one way, but also exploit them in another way. So let's, as Asian Americans, we have to be really clear what our government's doing in terms of politics, diplomacy, trade, and because eventually it's going to reflect on us as the diaspora. So as a diaspora, we should be speaking up and trying to get some clarity out there and holding our government's feet to the fire and being more accurate. And when they talk about China, yeah, they've done some bad things, and so have we. We criticize them for human rights violation, so have we. We've gone into war without provocation. Our government should be tried as war criminals, but we haven't. So let's look at ourselves if we're going to look at ourselves honestly, then we as Asian Americans have to speak up and make sure that our government is going to deal with other governments in a balanced way. And we have to look at some of our treaties that we've done with Japan, with the peace treaties. A lot of our hands are tied because we did a peace treaty with Japan, and so we favor Japan more than we favor other countries, because the Japanese knows the peace treaty, but the peace treaty in my mind is outdated. And so we have to we have to analyze ourselves in the context of how we're going to be operating on a global level. And so I just wanted to sort of share that.
Yeah, I cannot agree more than that. I haven't been in the US-China relationship, especially trade investment, for the last 20 years. So I have to say, on the ground, I worked with a lot of US embassies in Asia. On the ground, the field offices, they are pretty front, bicultural, bilingual. However, in DC, the orientation is exactly what Mike pointed out. The geopolitics pushed to the extent which is unnecessary, how we look into the impact of US-China relationship to the globe on the global scale, and automation itself can change the narrative of the whole global supply chain. So I think really agree. And I'm trying to, although I do not have solution, how as Asian American here in this country can let our voice heard on those foreign issues. And the foreign policy is never on the ballot in the first place. And I'm curious why there's not enough people to vote on certain policies, how we deal with China, India, or Japan for that matter. And it's never been voiced by any voters per se. And I'm sort of puzzled by that.
Well, this is Sandy. I would say I echoed what Mike have said. Is this it looks like government to government need updated, and then a lot of things is outdated is because we do not upkeep our understanding of each other when different organizations or government evolves. But somehow when we are basically talking about unity about Asian Americans in Asia, and then we're so diverse. I would say a lot of times the unification require a lot of interaction and a lot of understanding among the people to people. Basically, is us. Once you you do not interact, you cannot create a friendship. You need to create a friendship to create the kind of trust, the kind of understanding, the kind of unification that is required. So therefore, what I agree with Sato has said, if you breathe love continuously among the unifications, continuously, it requires time and effort. So therefore, basically is us, we need to do a lot of outreach. And I think each one, you know, is if we just invest time into our own kind of narrow ethnic area or where the city you're from, and then only communicate among them, we're so isolated in different pockets, and it's not powerful. The power has come to united efforts. So therefore, I think Asian Americans, let's say right now, 23 million of them, and then very quickly, in 2 decades, we 40 million. 40 million will make a difference unless we united together. So therefore, I would say it is necessary for us to invest time to befriend with different ethnic group. And then for the small effort I've been doing, I think I've been trying, but the scale is so little, so small. I will say quite significant more people, because reason why is this, when I was heading a education foundation, I exclusively have the Catholic, the Mormon, the Christian, and different and the Buddhists, and then all built school in the Muslim area in China. And then when the Boston marathons bombing from Muslim from Kyrgyzstan, I think we have a group of people just went to Kyrgyzstan and spent time over there. I bought a school to be friends with the people who do not understand. I think that kind of understanding, that kind of spreading of love and stuff, instead of spreading hate, is absolutely necessary. I think everybody need to do something to put a foot forward to really have compassion and love to all races. So therefore, basically, what we have to do is very conveniently, I say, hey, it's so easy to talk to people from my own village or my own town that I grew up from, and then all the same background is very easy. But somehow when you have to reach out to something that in the area unknown, I think it should be an effort. So therefore, I think it's us, when we talk about the challenges and then what are the barriers to AAPI unity, I would say there were lots of challenge, but somehow it's us. I think if we actually dedicated, at least we make the first step to actually to consciously to know some other ethnic group among the Asian Americans, and try to really listen to them to see what kind of common goal and common understanding we have, and then the like study English as second language, or maintain your own culture, and then how about extended family, and then how about the public safety, and then dealing with old age, and during how to survive in this in the country of what we adopt. So these are the many things that we can share. So I would say not only that we should organize, we should be consciously reach out and befriend. So therefore, I really feel that what Sato mentioned about, if you breathe enough time of love and care, the water will crystallize to be blue diamonds. So therefore, basically, it's just it's a long shot in terms of wish, but I would say just step out and then make your first step. You'll be surprised. I travel to the Muslim countries quite often, and then find out once you express your care and love, the reception is tremendous, because you had to break through some of the barriers, and then once you break through the barrier, you can really feel the acceptance and eagerness to reach out. So therefore, I think it's a collective effort. So therefore, basically, I would say, I would say I was inspired what Mai have said and Sato have said, is that we just need to reach out, and that we should update our understanding.
Thank you, Sandy. Thank you, Bing. I do want to get through the questions being asked in the chat, and I know Sato is going to be able to answer one of them. So go ahead, Sato.
Thank you. This answer is by Piyush. I hope I'm saying your name right. Please correct me if I did not. The question is, what can we do to change the perception and improve the climate for all Asian folks here in the US? The reason why I like to answer this question is the same question that Sandy just addressed. And I want to share something with everyone here. I wasn't intending on sharing this here today, but I think going back to what Sandy shared, Joel, Mike, and Bing, we can all agree that we have all said and shared that in order for the Asian community to catapult forward, to have equality in so many things in this country, is we have to reach out to other communities, right? Create friendships, to talk, to have dialogue, and most importantly, to listen. Now, I'm sharing this with you because I want to start now. I am actually working on a project. It's called the Peace and Visibility Tour. And if you go on the Instagram, Asians Are Visible, you can see I've started posting and giving a little teaser of what I'm about to do. My intention, because I believe so strongly what I shared with you, the power of words. I've set the intention to create this. I'm taking the action to do it. I know it's going to work out. I trust that. And I'm asking all of you to help me make Asians more visible and to create more of a positive image for the Asian community. I'm going to do this with a bike ride across the United States to talk to communities, to university students, to high school students, because they are our future, not just Asian students, but all students, because they're the ones who are going to be controlling the world, and we're going to be leaving that world for them. We need to inspire them by taking action, right? If we don't take action, we're just talking, nothing's going to materialize from that. So I'm asking you for your help to make this possible. And I'm going to go on this bike ride. It's going to be a documentary. We're going to talk to students, universities, high schools, local businesses, local people in small towns and big towns. And people are going to see that Asians are visible and we are not stuck in our little box. We're going on a road trip together to help spread this message of peace and love within our community and to share it with all communities. So I think that's how it starts. So if you want to help in this project, please get in touch with me and let's make it happen. We will share this across all the different platforms because that's how people communicate now, through Instagram, through YouTube, and we're going to make it viral. We're going to get everybody to take part in this and become a part of this story, not just the Asian story, but the American story and the story of people. So thanks for sharing. So long story short, that's my answer to the question of how we change the perceptions of Asians in the US. We get out there, we take action, we do it, we create community, we listen and create dialogue. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Sato. Thanks for sharing what your
Great initiative, Sato. If I may say something.
Wait, who's speaking, please?
This is Piyush. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay. I was invited by Diana and Keith. You and I connected on Clubhouse as well, so you might remember me from Fremont. So Sato, I really like your initiative here, and I want to say here, as the representing American Society of Engineers of Indian Origin, where I am the president, I would definitely want to support you. And we can, there are communities behind us. And if we collaborate, if we put things together, join hands together, greater things can come. So I'm all for collaboration. So let's connect, and you may be able to get my email address from Diana. She and I just connected, and of course I'm on LinkedIn. Thank you very much.
That's fantastic. I cannot do this alone. I know this. I need each and every one of you behind me because I cannot do it alone. And I need more people behind me. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Piyush. Thanks, Sato. What I was going to say is because I know we're running short on time, and wrapping in Kiana's question, as much as Asians are getting involved with other ethnic groups, I still feel that Caucasians have no respect to Asians. How can we change that? So I think Sato, her initiative is just one aspect of that, collaborating with other Asian communities such as South Asians, Indians is very powerful. So thank you, Piyush. And then also wrapping in Piyush's second question about think tanks. You know, one thing that we didn't discuss in this forum, we'll probably need to do another one, is when Joel was addressing generations and where groups are congregating amongst their own people. Actually, I find that doesn't happen in Gen Z. I find Gen Z and younger millennials to be very open to collaborating with other people. And I'm a middle Xer, but I'm also very open to collaborating with other people. I think these joint initiatives, think tanks are now pop-up events. They don't necessarily need years of advanced thinking and putting together. I belong to a number of think tanks that were started in the pandemic, very diverse group of investors and impact investors. So Piyush, we can talk about that offline. So just wanting to get through more people's questions. Lucy asked, the chat's moving. Lucy asked, is anyone able to share the term Black Lives Matter translated into other languages that are used in Asia? And just to get this done more quickly, is there an existing list or resource to help educate those in other Asian countries about the movement for Black Lives Matter? And if you know of it and you don't have the time to answer on the forum, just put it in the chat, or we can do it offline, right? So that's the first question. And then the second one, I think, is related to Sato. Can a list of terms Asians are visible also be provided in languages other than English? And Sato, I don't know if anyone's helping you out with that.
You know, I haven't translated it to other languages yet, but if anybody wants to help me, that would be fantastic.
All right. Are there other questions in the last few minutes we have left before I turn this back over to Diana? Joel?
Not right now.
All right.
I would say that I'm looking forward to the day when all ethnicity is dropped and we're just Americans. So that is a goal that we should all work for in the future. I don't want to be known as Chinese American or Asian American. I just want to be known as American. To do that, we have to identify ourselves as American and not. We should be proud of, you know, the country we're from, but not forgetting the culture that because what America is about diversity. We each bring a dish to the table, okay, and as a result, America benefit from all the culture we bring to this country. But we have to get through the ethnicity in front of our names.
That's an excellent point, Joel. The moment we can drop the hyphens, that's an important part for our identity. But what's interesting is Andrew Yang actually took that approach and was grilled by the Asian American community for not embracing or not amplifying his identity as being Asian American.
Well, I guess balance is the key word, because when people didn't know about their history, it's like tree without roots. They need to have a deep root in order to know their identity, be able to respect others and understand I totally agree with Sato about choose to love, be persistent until we are consistent. And in that way, we can build friends and build real allies. Because I always remember, actually, my pastor told us, honesty without kindness is brutality, but kindness without honesty is mere manipulation. And relationship building need to be genuine. And I guess from that, we meeting a lot of allies that they normally get like oversight, or they're not in the mainstream. But if we can build those up that are not always at the table, that they also feel have a seat, and we might be able to see that whole panoramic picture. Yes, it's a long road.
Agreed. Earlier this year, some of my friends know somebody, and I only speak English. I understand 3 Chinese dialects. One of my longtime friends, Caucasian, asked me why I chose China over the US, which was very offensive, only because I identify as being Chinese American. So I only have, I want to once again thank Joel and Anthony and Sato for being on the panel today. I appreciate the chance, Diana, to moderate this esteemed group. And I think the question about making every AAPI vote count definitely starts with education and first building allyship and understanding what that means. And so I appreciate the opportunity, and I'm going to turn it back over to you. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Keith. Thank you so much for the wonderful job as a moderator. And also thanks to Joe Wong, Anthony A, Sato Wong, and thanks to Mike Honda and Mr. Sandy Chau for your guidance and support. There are so many things we can learn from you and learn from each other. We hope to have you back in the future. And Keith, Sato, and I have been very active on Clubhouse for a few months. So we have our regular events on Clubhouse. I started Asian Americans Network Club in March. We have over 800 members now. So every Tuesday we have room discussing about important issues and also share the stories. So do please follow us on Clubhouse, YouTube, and Instagram. We also would love to collaborate with like-minded organizations, individuals, medias, content creators, social media marketers. So do please contact Dingding TV COO Sandy Wang at sandy@dingdingtv.com or send me a message at diana.dwp@yahoo.com or just direct message me through Instagram. We would love to work with all of you. So this event is organized by 8x8 Dingding TV and CLUSA. Our partners are United National Asian Americans, Asians Are Visible, and Silicon Valley Insider. I also want to thank AAUC, APAPA, SK Low, Andy Lee, Piyush, Dan, Lily, and many other community leaders for your help. With that, I'm going to hand over the stage to Bing, which is one of the organizer and our moderator for the first panel. Bing, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, I'm very grateful for our panel and our audience today, and it's a very invigorating conversation. And also very grateful to be meeting everybody here. I was honored to be nominated by President Bush for the June month as highlighted community leader by a Republican president, while I'm voted Democrat. So this is basically a message for me to look into unity as a totality of a message, not only unifying our diversity of Asian community, as well as uniting different races in this country as a first generation American. Thanks, Diana, to make this happen. I'm really grateful one of the panels here. Moderator Keith, you've done a really great job and have a lot to learn from you. I want to collaborate you on your radio. I text you on that and connect you on LinkedIn. Mark Honda, I'm always sort of kowtow to you as the godfather for us all and role model for us to learn. And thanks so much, everybody. Glad to meet like Sandy today and Sato today and all the audience. I'm really grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Bing. Thank you so much. And Keith, I think that you should invite Mr. Mike Honda to be on your radio show.
Anytime, any of you, let me know, and happy to have you on.
Having
I
said
think
that, you should have Sandy Chau on your program, because to talk about the schools that he's developed. He mentioned his travels to different places like Islamic, but in China has all those religions, but there's a lot of wisdom that's going to come out of Sandy's visit in his effort to build schools in China. And then the other guy, Fong La, the new assessor, you ought to bring him on because he's got stuff that people should know about.
I would be honored. I've had Lily May, I've had Fiona. Oh, Fiona's coming on very soon. I mean, definitely would love to have all of you on the show.
Fong La, ask him.
Yes, Fong La is here in the audience. Fong La, would you like to say a few words? I saw you here. Thank you so much.
Okay. Now I'll
be. Yes. Well, thank you, Mike. Thank you. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, we should get all the speakers, and we have so many great leaders here. So KISS is a really a good channel for our Asian Americans to be in the mainstream, and also we are creating content too. So for the video we recorded today, we're going to post on YouTube and post on Ding TV, and of course share on 8x8 and CLUSA. So any organization or any friend would like to share this content, then please contact me and Sandy, and you can see Sandy's email in the chat. So we would love to collaborate with all of you. With that, I also want to thanks to Hong Yue, who is working hard on Clubhouse, and all the friends and audience on Clubhouse and on YouTube, on Zoom. Thank you all. With that, we are going to take off. And thank you so much for being the speaker, being the audience, being the partner, and being our good friends.
Thanks, Diana. Yeah, thanks for your leadership on
Thank you, Diana. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Diana.
It's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you. And we thank you to our team, Bing, Taylor, Sandy, and Hong. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
thank
everyone.
you, Joe.
Take care.
Thank you, Anthony.
Well, stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sato. Thank you, kids.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Xiaoyan. I saw you here. Thank you.